going to mic plus what's it called? 48 volts, I think. Let me see if I can do. Let's go to your headphones. That's why I just took my
Yeah, that's me.
What is this? Oh, hey! How are you? Oh, transition to the headphones? Good. No, so, what kind of music is cable? Right. Oh, wait. That's good.
I know you're recording. Who's working the 245?
Hey, should we move? Shift it over?
Yeah. That was our first.
That's good, right?
But it's not a real way to put it on.
Can you look it up? No? Let's try this.
Are you the beginning or the end?
Hey, for everyone here, there's hot chocolate and
Freezing, below freezing. Thank you all for coming out. Please get some hot chocolate.
check. There's gotta be behind. Feedback.
Orient the people speaking here. Like you and I'll go over there. I'm happy to go. That's why I got the map. Are you scared?
No, I'm not.
I shoveled it off. Or no, on there. No, there. I'm going. I might even do it. The speakers can go there. I don't want anyone like.
No, then we should all.
I eat it. Y'all should.
You should be on there. Because
Because it'll be hard to transition. Yeah, that's fine.
You know, I'm not gonna get my.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's my learner. Because people let me free up for hot chocolate, you know, or more off to the side.
Yeah, they could do speakers here. When they're hanging out.
Oh no! Oh yeah. Yeah.
Alright. You guys have something more? Oh yeah, dude, I knew. Dude, I came out here this morning on that current. We were in I was with my family not too long ago, and that's like full. So I feel like I had my dry run.
Yeah, about to start.
Lauren, how are you doing? How are you, sir?
Hello, how are you, neighbor? Thank you. I mean, thank you for coming, sir. I didn't like Are you warm enough for that? Don't look at him. Are you warm enough? Yeah? He's like, yeah, I'm
Hello,
good.
sir. Good to see you, man. It's morning.
Good.
Good to see you. Weather turned out all right.
Kind of.
It's good enough. It's gonna keep me warm. Yeah, Carlos, that's why.
Thank you.
I'll give you my perspective. I had James with my J's.
Oh, wow. Okay. Don't come. You're the one that serves stuff just because my hands are frozen. I mean, I would give it to you right now. Otherwise, I would.
Who's got the mic, man? Who has the mic?
It
Oh,
will.
there you
We're
go.
great.
Nicole.
Okay, we're gonna get started in just a We're gonna get started in just a few minutes. No, it's not just it's a radio receiver. Yeah.
Nobody else.
Yeah, we're gonna get started in just a few minutes. I want to go over the chants that we're gonna have throughout
My number.
Benjamin.
Benjamin?
$100 bill.
Yeah, all right. I won't forget you, Benjamin. There you go.
if this works. All right, so thank you all for coming in this below freezing weather to commemorate the 1 year memorial of the death and murder of Vicha Ratanapakdee, an elderly Thai grandfather who was murdered and whose death brought awareness to the violence and the racism and the hate that we had been experiencing in the year prior and beyond. So when we march and take these streets, I understand how a lot of us feel because the violence has only increased since the beginning of the pandemic. And we can feel helpless. But we are here together. And this is our power. This is the strength of our community. So when we take the streets, we have to show that and show up for each other. So when you're chanting, I would love for everyone to really, we're just here for this hour for today. So give it everything that you got. All right? So this is the call. And I'll give you the response. The call is, when grandmas get attacked, stand up, fight back is the response. Okay? And then when Asians get attacked, stand up, fight back. When we get attacked, stand up, fight back. So let's try it once. When grandmas get attacked, stand up, fight back. When grandmas get attacked, stand up, fight back. When Asians get attacked, stand up, fight back. When Asians get attacked, stand up, fight back. When we get attacked, stand up, fight back. When we get attacked, stand up, fight back. 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 All right, that's the first one. Okay, so the next one, your response is gonna be show me what community looks like, and your response is this is what community looks like. All right, here we go. Show me what community looks like. Show me what community looks like. Show them what community looks like. All right. So I'm going to teach two more. Silence is violence is the call. The response is we are not a virus. Silence is violence. 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 We are not a virus. Okay, we're not a virus. All right, cool. Let's do it one more time. Silence is violence. We are not a virus. All right, great. And one more. Get it right the first time is the call. The response is that was a hate crime. Okay? Get it right the first time. That was a hate crime. Get it right the first time. That was a hate crime. Get it right the first time. That was a hate crime. Great, thank you. And I think this doesn't need any prepping. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. All right. Thank you guys. Give it up for yourselves. Give it up for yourselves. All right, are we ready to get started? And again, for everyone who's really cold out here right now, please, we're giving out hand warmers. There's hot chocolate right here up on the stage. And if you need support or any help, just please reach out to one of the volunteers.
Hey, Ambrose, you want to come here?
All right, thank you all for coming. We're gonna get this started right now, and this is a multi-city rally across the country, a simultaneous rally that's happening across the country right now in Chicago, Atlanta, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and here in New York City. We're honoring the death of Mr. Vicha Ratanapakdee, an 84-year-old elderly Thai grandfather murdered last year that gave awareness to the hate and violence that the Asian community has been facing. So I'd like to give it up to Don Vu, the co-founder of the New York chapter of Standing with Asian Americans. Give him a hand.
Thanks a lot, Will, and thank you guys so much for coming out. I do have to start there. We wouldn't let this snowstorm stop us from coming out. We have to thank the 40+ organizations that got involved across the country. We're in 6 cities, thousands of people are getting together, and we're united. And we're united for a really important reason. We're united to recognize justice for Vicha Ratanapakdee and all the other victims of anti-AAPI violence. So I just want to say thanks so much for you guys for coming out. We couldn't be stopped. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. Thank you so much to the hundreds of volunteers. Thank you to all our speakers. We are here for Vicha. I talked to Montanus the other day, and we all know the numbers. We know that Asian hate crimes have gone up by 300% in New York City. We know there's been tens of thousands of reported hate incidents with Stop AAPI hate. And each of those numbers is a person. Each of those numbers is a person with a family that's been affected deeply. We'll be hearing from some of the family's victims today. So thank you so much for coming out. And I'll be passing the mic to Will. Are we doing Joanne next? Guys? Joanne's next, I guess, talking?
Yeah. Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So Joanne, would you like to come up, please? Where are you? All right, awesome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to see all of you despite this freezing weather. We are here today as a community to honor Vicha Ratanapakdee. We are here to honor his memory on the first anniversary of his death and remember the horrific way he passed away. We send our love and condolences to the Ratanapakdee family and to the families of all those impacted by racism and violence. Round of applause to the leaders of Stand With Asian Americans who organized this rally in an effort around the country to honor Mr. Ratanapakdee and all the hate crime victims. So everybody give it up for the organizers. As you know, our city has the second highest rate of anti-Asian attacks in the country. My office gets videos and calls from victims of anti-Asian hate way too often. For 2 years now, I dread getting out of bed because I'm not sure what is waiting for me in my inbox. Some days it's really difficult, almost impossible not to despair or fall into a sad place. But what keeps me going is that I have work to do. I have to work with all of you to keep our community safe. We need to work with all New Yorkers to overcome this horrible time in history from racism. We need to work with elected leaders for legislation and funding to get safety programs on the ground and into our neighborhoods so our seniors feel safe again. So our kids learn about the contributions of Asian Americans in their classrooms, so we have excellent victim services, so we can get mental health programs in our communities because we are all suffering right now. So our small businesses are not harassed and we can all feel safe on the streets and on the subways. Our safety depends on working together, refusing to be divided by gender, race, age, religion, sexual orientation, language, and culture, and all the other classifications that potentially dehumanize our neighbors. Please go to the Asian American Federation website and sign up for updates because there's a lot of activities coming up. In addition to memorializing Mr. Ratanapakdee, today is also Fred Korematsu Day. As you know, Mr. Korematsu sued the U.S. government for incarcerating Americans of Japanese descent. His fight for racial equity and his fight was for racial equity and human dignity for all. Let's honor the memory of Mr. Ratanapakdee, the pain of the victims of hate attacks in our own city, Noel Quintana, Vilma Kari, Potri Manus, Minerva Chin, and the thousands of victims of racism whose names we do not know. And let's recognize Mr. Korematsu's fight for our community's dignity and against racism and discrimination inflicted on all Americans. Because we know pain today, let's fight against racism and discrimination so no other community is in this sad place in the future. Stay safe, friends. Look out for each other. Let our efforts create the city we all deserve. Happy Lunar New Year, family.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne Yu from Asian American Federation. Next, we have New York State Senator John Liu.
Well, let's give it up to William Lex the Longham. He's got a set of lungs here. I'm gratified to see all of you out here today on this cold day. It could be worse. It could always be worse. But we could never imagine that 2 years into this pandemic that the anti-Asian hate would continue to go on so strong as it seems. Obviously, with the rise of Omicron in the last month and a half, we have also seen yet another uptick in violence and bigotry against Asian Americans. Joanne mentioned today's Fred Korematsu Day, an icon, a pioneer in Asian American history. I'm glad to get together on his day. Sad, though, that this was 1 year after Mr. Ratanapakdee's life was senselessly taken as yet another vivid example of what we Asian Americans have had to face during this very difficult time. But we're here in a show of unity. A show of unity among Asian Americans.
Yes.
A show of unity among all Americans.
Yes.
Because we will not stand for this hate. And we're not just here for unity. We want action.
Yes.
We want action. We have action by community organizations,
who need more resources, more money, so that we can build a stronger foundation for the Asian American community. We're here to demand government show action. I'm so delighted to see, I'm surprised to see, very happy to see our Comptroller Brad Lander, our Public Advocate Jamani Williams, my colleague in the State Senate, Brian Kavanaugh, many others who I'm sure will join us as well. We need government action. Now, people have said we don't need this or we don't need that. You know what? We do need services for the mentally ill. We do need more shelter for those who need it, the homeless. We need Asian American history and experience taught in our public schools. We need law enforcement to hold those accountable. We need all of these things. It's not one magic solution. We need the entire gamut of actions, from community organizations to individuals such as yourselves, and to those of us in government. You hold us responsible because that's what you put us in to do, to protect the community, to serve the community, and to make sure that Asian Americans have equal treatment, equal rights, and equal protection. That's what this is all about. So what does community look like? This is what community looks like. What does community look like? This is what community looks like. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator John Liu. Next, we have Elizabeth Corey, the daughter of Vilma Corey, who she was attacked in Midtown West, and no one did anything. And we saw the viral video of the doorman who closed the door as she was attacked on the street. So yes, please give it up for advocate and the daughter of Vilma Corey, Elizabeth Corey.
All right, thank you everyone. What a whirlwind the last year has been, and I really can't underline the importance of community more than this. To gather together and to commemorate all of those who have been victims and survivors of these attacks. To look back and see those who've received media coverage and those who have not even spoken the words that they had heard. Those that are living in silence. We stand together to commemorate all of them. As I stand in front of you, I think back to the incidents of my mom, and I'm so sad to think she was a victim, but thankful that I can still say the word survivor, and that I'm one of the few that's able to say that. As we stood together and this incident unfolded, I had no idea what to expect. Like many of us, I'm a professional in my field. I was running my Monday reports, and I received a text from my mom saying that someone had attacked her. I ran to the hospital where I heard her telling the police that he had mentioned that she was Asian before he attacked her. Our lives were never the same. Media got a hold of our address even before her name was released, and the next morning I woke up to reporters at my door. Little did she know what was unfolding in the world around her. We had conversations in the privacy of our home while we tried to help her heal, to talk not only about the protection that we talk about one amongst each other, to talk about our parents and our children, the safety, the protective items that we bring with us, the vigilance we have when we walk down the street. But rarely do we talk about the other person and their experiences, something that the AAPI community usually looks at with shame. What we tried to bring forward with our platform and with the events that my mother endured was the fact that we need to talk about things. It's not a time to be shy, it's a time to come together, to make sure that people understand that this just isn't a trend that's appeared, that it's something that we've been living with together for many decades and many centuries. And as this all came together, I played with the idea of the GoFundMe. My mom didn't want to have anything posted. She didn't want anybody to know. In her defense, she hadn't seen the video for about a week. We shielded her. We put Netflix on because I couldn't leave her in a room with the TV on the news because it was playing on every channel. If you think about the time that it's your birthday every year and everybody wishes you well wishes, this was almost like the negative lottery of that. It was as if every single person you had ever met in your life remembered that they had known you and were reaching out for a different reason. Our phones exploded, media at my door, they were slipping notes under the door, and we were almost afraid to speak too loudly in the apartment. I would open the door consistently to look down the hall to make sure we had our privacy, to think about the next steps that we wanted to have. When I created the GoFundMe, I was encouraged by my closest friends. It wasn't for any monetary value, it was because people wanted to connect. People wanted to know that my mom was okay, not only because she was a victim of such a heinous crime and they felt like they needed to say something about the brutality of the attacker or the lack of concern of the doorman, but that they felt that their mom embodied somebody that they knew. It was their mother, it was their grandmother, it was a relative that had come to the US many years prior, similar to my mom who had immigrated in her 20s. And I created the GoFundMe and messages started pouring in. I talk about community because it's what got me through this time. Being half Asian and not always being able to identify with that was difficult, and I had to look in the mirror and face this during this period. Raise my hand and accept help from those around me, people I had never met. I took the time to reply to the many messages I received from strangers, those people that had taken time out of their day to think about my mom and compose words to share with me. Little did they know that at 2 to 4 in the morning every night, once I had my little time of peace, I would sit and read them and just cry and think, wow, people really care. I would reply back to them, some surprised that I would respond, and we started small conversations. As I received these words, I was encouraged to keep moving forward, encouraged by what other people said. I saw that we weren't alone, and I saw that people experienced it, and I thought, how could this be possible, and why is no one doing anything about this? So from my side, I was able to recreate my GoFundMe inbox with all the help and community I had. Many people here today contributing to that. I created the AAPI Belong platform, taking the words I belong to subvert what my mom's attacker had said to her. I took those words back. He told her he didn't belong, and I say we damn well do. The platform is an anonymous space where one can share their stories of encounters with anti-Asian hate or even words of encouragement, because we know that this is a community effort beyond just AAPI. We all have each other's back. People are able to share their anonymous stories, the things that they don't want maybe even anyone to know, and just put it out there and have the cathartic release of putting it into the universe and hopefully feeling a little bit better that it's out there. Knowing that taking those stories and repurposing them, I would post it so that other people could think about their lives and think about the incidents they've had. Find a type of shared community in this somber attitude that we're dealing with. And also find the courage to reflect on those repressed memories that we all have that we put to the back. Bringing that to the front, exhibiting those words, and trying to encourage everyone else to speak out and stand up was the premise of the platform. This was an incredible moment for my mom as she continued to heal while reading the words. Not only would she be just a sensationalized victim of a brutal attack, but we would use this incident that she had to endure to be something to create change and hope that we could encourage others to share their stories as well. This isn't just about community. It is, of course, what we need to do to come together, but this is a fight on hate. And it's a question about our human decency, not just as AAPI and our allies, but as all humans. This is the legacy we have to put forward. So we need to fight, and we need to protect each other, and we need to encourage to keep speaking so people know that we deserve to be at the table just as much as everybody else, because we are all humans, and we need to make sure that we are taking care of one another. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz Corey. Our next speaker we have is Nicole Henriquez. She is the aunt of Christian Hall, an Asian American young man who was murdered by police, Pennsylvania State Police, as he was going through a mental health crisis. Please give it up for Nicole Henriquez.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am Nicole Henriquez. I'm Christian Hall's aunt, and I'm of the Christian J. Hall Foundation. Thank you for inviting me today to speak. We stand with the Asian community in their fight for justice, and we offer our condolences to the unfortunate families who have had to deal with violence and killing due to Asian hate. We created the Christian J. Hall Foundation in honor of my nephew, Christian Hall, to effectuate change with mental health and policing amplifying the voices of transracial adoptees and amplifying Asian history in schools. So I was very happy to hear what John Liu had to say today. John Liu is also my neighbor. Christian's parents were asked to create a GoFundMe. They didn't want to. We had one, and they've chosen to use that GoFundMe money not for them or for the funeral expenses. They believe that that was their final gift to their son. And that GoFundMe money has been transferred to the Christian J. Hall Foundation so that we can use that money to amplify Asian voices in the Asian community, adoptee voices, and really create something for Asian history in schools. We see that it is not there, and that is something we believe that is contributing to the hate and the ideology that Asians are others and not Americans as you are or belong here. Christian, I'm not sure if you know his story, he was born in China. His given name was Zibo Chen. He was a transracial adoptee, and he was adopted by my cousin, Gareth Hall, and his mother, Faye Hall. Faye is Filipino, and Gareth and I are Black and Latino. Christian was killed by the Pennsylvania State Police 1 year ago on December 30th, 2020 at the age of 19. He was a child. He was having a mental health crisis. He was shut in by the pandemic, and the therapy was discontinued, although he had been under therapy. Christian himself called the police for help while he stood on that overpass. But instead of helping Christian, they killed him. I got the awful call in the middle of my day, thinking my cousin was just calling to tell me something great. And I realized that my nephew, who I had spoken with and FaceTime with on a weekly basis, was no longer with us, and I couldn't understand how that could have happened. Christian never threatened anyone on that overpass. He was only threatening himself, and he just needed help. He did have a pellet gun that he never threatened any police with. He never advanced at the police, but instead of telling the truth, the Pennsylvania police lied about it, issued a statement to cover it up, and would not release the dash cam video to our family for almost 10 months. The only reason why we knew that Christian never threatened them was because of a bystander video, and I'm sure many of you have seen that. But even with all of that, the police decided to find that his murder was justified. Our family is filing a federal U.S. attorney civil rights action against the police and the police department. It hasn't been filed yet, but it will be filed shortly. As you know, we have hired Ben Crump and Devin Jacob as our family attorneys. I'm going to make a statement. It might be controversial or maybe not. I'm telling you his story because I want you to know that I, as a Black and Latino woman, believe that if Christian was white, he would be still alive today. And I'm going to say that again. Okay? I believe that's the truth. I believe that those police in that community that was only 1% Asian, and that might sound odd to us because we live in New York and that's not what it is here, but in that community in Stroudsburg, it is only 1% Asian. When they saw my nephew on that overpass, they did not see themselves in him. They saw an other, they saw a foreigner, and they did not give him any help. They did not give him what they would have given someone who looked like them. They did not see themselves in him. And we have to talk about the disparate treatment that the police give to certain races. And that is the truth. And maybe we don't think it happens to the Asian community, but it does, and we don't talk about it. And the other thing that happens is that they expect the model myth minority that we're going to stay quiet. We're not. We're here to tell you that we are standing with you, and we will not remain silent about all of these actions of injustice and hate against the Asian community and against justice for my nephew. Sorry, I went off script a little bit. Thank you. It is a controversial statement, but I'm going to make another one, and I'm going to make it because I am a Black and Latino woman, and I can make it. Honestly, if he was a Black teenager that was killed, his story would be all over the news continuously, but it's not. And you have to ask why. Why? It's the powers that be. I'm not going to say that I haven't been approached by several Asian journalists, but I haven't been approached by other journalists. So if we only have less than 1%, and I'm just throwing out a number, I don't know what it is, but let's say if it's less than 1% Asian journalists universally, what power do they have to go to their producers and say, this is a story, that the Asian hate epidemic is a story? Why do they have a story about what happens to one person, and then they don't have a story for a while until it happens to another Asian person? You have to ask your question, why? We need more power. You need more power. And what is the power about? The power is about unity against the injustice. If you look at my family is black, my son-in-law is white, Latino, and Asian. It's kind of a symbol of what unity should look like. So exactly what they said today, what does community look like? What is the answer? This is what community looks like. And so we have to take that and we have to work together to effectuate change. It can't be we're going to pit each other against each other. It can't be a troll on Facebook or wherever is going to say, but do you remember what happened to this person by that race and this race? You know what? Things happen. I'm not going to say any race is perfect, but the only way that we're going to move forward with power is if we do it together.
Yes.
You have to ask, who profits from us being divided? Who really profits? Okay? It's not us. It's only us that are going to get hurt. Okay? As MLK said, and you all know this, you all know the quote. I'm just going to scroll back down. I don't want to miss it. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You can't sit here and see someone just because they don't look like you. You don't want to fight for them. Is this really who we are? Are we not human? Okay? I put it on you guys. I put it on the youth to do this. I might be too old to get into this fight. I'm 51 years old. But you guys have the voices. You have the voices to go out there and ask those questions. You have the voices to ask your elected officials, why do they dump the mentally deranged homeless in certain communities and not in other communities? I don't see them in my community. Maybe I'm in an affluent community and that's why I don't see it. You have to ask why. Why are they putting them there so that you have to now take self-defense courses to be afraid of what could happen to you? Those are questions that you have to ask them. Where is the funding going? Why is it not coming to your communities? I'm sorry, I'm going off script, but I'm going to end now. I apologize. I think I said everything. That's good. So lastly, this is my husband. He's without unity, our communities individually will never have enough power separately. You must know that we have to work together and we have to move forward together. So it is about unity. Black, white, Asian, Latino, indigenous unity. Thank you very much for having me and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nicole Henriquez. Let's always honor Christian's whole life. We're about to get into a moment of silence around the country, but I wanted to, before we get there, wanted to go over the chants again that we have for today. And I know some of you just got here, so silence is violence, and the call is we are not a virus. We are not a virus, right? Silence is violence. We are not a virus. Silence is violence. We are not a virus. All right. Get it right the first time. Get it right the first time. That was a hate crime. Get it right the first time. That was a hate crime. Get it right the first time. That was a hate crime. Okay. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose city? Our city. Whose city? Our city. Okay, so I want to give it to Rachel before we get into the moment of silence, and she's going to bring us to there.
Rachel, can you tell us your last name?
My name is Rachel Hu. I'm an activist and organizer with the Answer Coalition that's Stop Now to Act War. Sorry, y'all. Today's the day, isn't it? It's today's day. Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. My name is Rachel Hu. I'm an activist and organizer with the Answer Coalition that's Act Now to Stop War and End Racism Coalition. I'm out here today for many, many reasons. But one of the reasons I'm here is to stand in solidarity with Grandpa Vicha, who was brutalized as an 84-year-old man, and his life was taken from him because of this racist attack. I stand with his family and with all the other cities across the country participating with us today to demand justice be served for Vicha and demand an end to these hate crimes.
Yes.
And I'm also here today because I am a proud Southeast Asian American.
Yes!
I am proud to be where I'm from. I'm from Lowell, Massachusetts. And I say this because I want to talk about something really important as we talk about these hate crimes and we talk about our communities. Is that for far too long our communities have been silent. Our communities have been ashamed. You know, in this country, you can relate to it. You tell me you can relate. How many of us don't want to share our hardships? We don't want to share the shame that we feel because we can't put food on the table for our families. The shame that we feel for having to ask for benefits and ask for things for our communities and for us. There is so much shame that we feel. And I want to tell you, that shame is not for you to bear. That is the shame of the U.S. government for doing nothing about the fact that our communities are living in poverty and our communities are struggling and we're getting brutalized in the streets. And what are they doing about it? What are they doing about it? Nothing. They're not doing anything about it. They're letting it happen. Because in the middle of a pandemic, we have people in our communities going homeless, being killed, dying from COVID, all of these things. And what does the government do in America? They let the rich get richer. They look the other way while the billionaires make all the money in the middle of a pandemic when we're starving and we're dying. And I say this to say, as a Southeast Asian, I want to say that we need to lift the silence. Our communities in this country are struggling. They are starving. They are poor. We are going through so much. We didn't choose to come to this country. We are the sons and daughters of people who were forced to be here. The United States bombed our countries from Vietnam to Laos to Cambodia, all the way across Southeast Asia, and they made our communities come here. I didn't want to be here. And I say that's strength and power because so many of our communities, our mothers, our fathers, our families, they die in this country wanting to go home. That's what it's like. We work under the table, jobs, making $5 an hour, working in sweatshops. That's what my community did, working in sweatshops, literally making bags for Walmart in the richest country in the world. And so we have a moment of silence I want to get to before I get to everything else I want to say. But I say this because I ask everybody here, will you be silent?
No!
Will you be silent?
No!
Are you going to stay silent?
No!
You're not. And are you cold?
Yes!
But are you tired?
No!
I'm not tired. So we want to move into our moment of silence to honor Vicha and all the victims of anti-Asian violence across the country. We want to stand with Vicha's family. We want to stand with all of the families across the country because look at us here in the middle of the cold, in the ice, in the storm. We all decided to come out here and say this matters to me. And that's the most powerful thing. So we want to go to our moment of silence. We're going to be engaging in nationally. Please take 1 minute and remember Vicha and his life and everything that he was worth. It's been 1 minute. Thank you all for participating in the moment of silence. And as we close out, I want to say this. Southeast Asian people in this country, what we struggle with, what we're going through, it's by design. They wanted to disappear us. They put us in the poorest communities in this country. We're suffering from police brutality. We're suffering from deportation. We're suffering from poverty. And it's by design. Just like when we think about why the anti-Asian hate crimes are happening now, it's by design. It's not by accident. It's because we see a non-stop propaganda in the media calling us the enemy. It doesn't even matter if you're not Chinese. What matters is you're Asian, and that means that you're a menacing other. You're enemy number one. You know that we've been called the enemy since we've been in this country. They're saying that we're spies. You know, in 2018, the FBI and the United States federal government, they worked together. The department worked together. They worked together to actually go out and claim that Chinese Americans are spies. Our communities are already in the shadows. We don't need them to be more and more afraid. And so when we talk about anti-Asian violence, we have to name the fact that we are literally being brutalized in the streets because of racist propaganda. And I'm gonna wrap this up because I think this is very important that we say this. This massive spike in hate crimes is absolutely a result of the US foreign policy and all that we see against China, because they treat us like we're the enemy, like they did in World War II, during Japanese internment, like they did before. So I will wrap, but you know I have this feeling, so I want to end on this. I want you to say this with me. I am proud to be Asian American.
I'm proud to be Asian American.
I will stand up and I will fight.
I will stand up and I will fight.
I will love my community.
I will love my community.
And I will stand strong and continue to organize.
I will stand strong and continue to organize.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel Hu from Answer Coalition. Now we have U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be very brief because I know there are other families of victims who want to speak. Anti-Asian violence is a curse on America. Anti-Asian bigotry is a curse in America. All of us from every different background, every different place must fight it. We have passed the Anti-Asia Hate Crimes Bill, led by 2 Asian American women in the Senate, Mazie Hirono, who is Japanese, and Tammy Duckworth, who is Thai. And now we will get the Justice Department. We're fighting to give them the dollars and the focus to prosecute every anti-Asian crime. They have been ignored for too long. Thank you for letting me address you. Keep up the fight. We will succeed.
Thank you, U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer. And now we have a declaration. This is a national declaration from Stand With Asian Americans across the country, and it's going to be read by Bonnie, Kim, and June.
Thanks, Will. We will not be silenced. We have been ignored. We have been excluded, and we have been silenced.
And we will not be silenced. We call on the Asian Americans, all people of conscience, to stand up, speak out, and demand to be heard. We will not be silenced about racism we face. We will not be silenced about the hate crimes committed against us. We will not be silenced as the model minority while our communities live in poverty. We will not be silenced and whitewashed in the media. We will not be silenced and typecast in the entertainment industry. We will not be silenced in the corporations built on our backs. We will not be silenced while our people are scapegoated for political gain. We will not be silenced in the fight for immigration reform. We will not be silenced in the record of our nation's history. We will not be silenced in the country that we call home. We will speak and we will march and we will fight until our love of this nation is shown back in kind. Today, we break the silence. And today, we will be heard.
That's right. You gotta vote! Vote! Vote the motherfuckers out.
The silence ends here, because the truth is not what we have been told. The truth is that our communities are facing poverty, evictions, widespread systemic lack of language access, and a lack of accessible health care. The truth is that our elders are now too afraid to walk alone at night. The truth is that we have seen violence against the Asian American community. But it is not the first time we have experienced the bitter taste of prejudice. Since we have been in this country, we have faced racism and immigration in our courts, in our streets, in our universities, in our jobs, and in the media. Now we are sharing our stories and speaking our truths. For those truths do come with requests. They come with demands for safety, for equality, for equity, for justice, for a seat at the table we helped build.
Thank you. Thank you, Stand With Asian Americans. Thank you, Bonnie, Kimberly, and June. Next, we have Nikki Singh from the Sikh Coalition, Manager of Policy and Advocacy.
Go back to your country. I was 9 years old the first time I heard someone say this to my grandfather. He has a beard and wears a turban, clearly identifiable Sikh articles of faith, at least for anyone who actually knows who Sikhs are. Sikhism is the 5th largest organized religion in the world, with around 500,000 followers here in the United States. Yet we continue to experience anti-immigrant sentiments, bullying, discrimination, and violence. Based on the most recent FBI hate crime report, anti-Sikh hate increased by 82% between 2019 and 2020. Once again, Sikhs remain among the top 5 most targeted faith groups for hate crimes in the US. Here in New York City, anti-Asian hate increased by 361% last year. And those are just the incidents that make it on the NYPD's radar. As we know, these numbers don't account for the incidents that never get reported to police in the first place, or cases in which law enforcement agencies failed to investigate or appropriately charge as hate crimes. In the midst of this latest wave of harassment and violence, it's important to acknowledge that our communities have experienced hate since we first came to this country. For the Sikh community, it started more than 100 years ago. In 1907, a mob of 500 white workers brutally attacked South Asian lumber mill workers. They blamed Sikhs for taking their jobs. They pulled them from their homes, beat them senseless, and demanded that they leave. Within days of the Bellingham riots, the entire South Asian population had departed. In the 1980s, due to the increase in anti-immigrant sentiments during the Iran hostage crisis, Sikhs were called Ayatollah and told go back to Iran. On August 5th, 2012, a neo-Nazi gunman walked into a gurdwara in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, and opened fire, killing 6 worshippers and injuring others. Just 4 days after 9/11, the murder of Sikh American Balbir Singh Sodhi was the first deadly hate crime reported in supposed retribution for the attacks. Within a month, the Sikh Coalition had documented more than 300 cases of violence and discrimination against Sikhs. It is heartbreaking and infuriating to see acts of hate violence, large and small, continue today. Just this month, a Sikh taxi driver was physically attacked and berated outside of his cab at JFK Airport. The offender reportedly shouted, "Go back to your country," and called the driver turban people before repeatedly punching and shoving him. No one should be subjected to this kind of harassment, whether they're doing their job, waiting for the subway, or simply just existing. We mourn all the lives lost due to senseless violence and recognize the thousands of others, the family, friends, and neighbors of those who have been affected. In the Sikh faith, we believe in Chardikala, or eternal optimism. And while that optimism is grounding, it does not make it less essential to implement actionable solutions to address hate. Change starts at home, with families embracing and celebrating the people in their neighborhoods. Our stories and experiences need to be taught in history, civics, and religion classes. Exposure to multiculturalism will result in increased understanding and compassion for one another, which in turn reduces incidents of hate and bias. And on the policy side, we need inclusive and effective legislation combating hate crimes, employment discrimination, and school bullying. Reforming our laws will ensure a bias-based crime can be identified, reported, and charged accurately. And then, by understanding the sources of these incidents, we can develop even more precise solutions. Our communities need both legislative and social change to safeguard our liberties and lives. It strengthens my own sense of Chardikala to see representation from so many communities, elected officials, and allies here today. Together, I know we can sustain our commitment to action, that we can continue this work in solidarity so that future generations have the freedom to practice their faith and to live fearlessly. Thank you. And just really quickly, I'll plug, we're hosting an event next Saturday at 2 p.m. at JFK to share resources with taxi and rideshare drivers, which are a particularly vulnerable community to hate crimes. We need more volunteers, so if anyone is interested, please come find me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki from Sikh Foundation Coalition. Yes, so how are you guys doing? All right, warm? If you're cold and you're freezing, and we still have hot chocolate over here, and if you need hand warmers, they're being given out. So next, we want to give it up to Judy Cheng, a lifelong resident and teacher in Chinatown, and also a victim of violence in 2020.
Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. 13 months ago, I too was physically assaulted after an altercation at a COVID testing site. The man later followed me out, confronted me, and shoved me hard, crushing my wrist bone against the cement sidewalk. These are my injuries. For 2 hours, surgeons drilled a metal plate with 8 screws into my wrist bone to hold it together. My assailant was not mentally ill, and he wasn't black. He was a large, white male, 5'8" and 200 pounds. I'm half his weight and size at 100 pounds. I learned later that he was an off-duty auxiliary NYPD officer. Not surprising. The corporate media likes to paint the picture that it's black people causing us harm, when really it's not. It's the corporate media. Listen to the demonization of Chinese people and of China. The US blames us for COVID-19. This racist and misleading propaganda creates fear and hatred of Chinese people. Media lies are dangerous, and we have to call it out. It's this racist propaganda that is to blame for violence against Asians. My assailant didn't have to shove me, but he did, because he could. I was alone. I was a woman. I was Chinese. And after a year of Donald Trump calling COVID-19 a China virus. Black people are not our enemy. They're also being brutalized and killed every day in this country. We have nothing to gain by letting the media narratives pit us against black people. We must unite and fight our common enemy. A racist system that lies to us, exploits us, oppresses us, and ignores us. When my attacker shoved me the way he did, I wanted to scream. I wanted to go to the press. But I was told, be quiet, Judy. Be patient. Don't go to the press. Let the prosecutors deal with it. Have faith in the process. So I patiently waited and waited and waited. After a year of waiting, the district attorney's office called me and said they were reducing my assailant's 4 misdemeanor assault charges to 1 charge of disorderly conduct. This is not justice, but the DAs call this their idea of justice. Well, it's not justice when prosecutors don't call it what it is, hate crimes. It's not justice when a man shoots 8 Asian victims at close range and the Atlanta DA says the assailant had a bad day. It's not justice when the media shows these violent shoving incidents for increased views. And at the same time, gives airtime to politicians spewing anti-China hate. The hypocrisy is very real. Malcolm X said, if we stand for nothing, we will fall for anything. Let's not fall for the anti-China, anti-Chinese lies. I stand with fellow Asian victims of violent assaults. I'm here today to stand with Vicha Ratanapakdee, who lost his life to a vicious racist attack. I stand with the Asian students in schools across the United States who suffer relentless taunting and bullying just for being Asian. I stand with the family of Danny Chen, who was so viciously hazed and subjected to racist abuse in the military that he took his own life. I stand with the family of Christian Hall, whose Pennsylvania police killers shot him multiple times despite his empty hands being up and visible. And I stand with the thousands of black and brown families whose unarmed loved ones like Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor were gunned down by racist vigilantes or police officers. I urge all my brothers and sisters to speak out against the ongoing anti-Asian and anti-black violence. Demand the district attorneys prosecute. Demand they call it what it is, racist hate crimes. Call it what it is. 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 Hate crimes.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy. Oh, I know why.
Check, check, check. Thank you, Judy. Next, we have Grace Lee, who is a resident of this district and a community activist and organizer.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Stand With Asian Americans, all the organizers for being here. I'm honored to be standing with my Asian American family and with all the allies who have come to support us today. My name is Grace Lee.
Just scream, Grace.
Gotta change the battery.
Grace, you gotta get the good battery.
Yeah. Oh, hold on.
He will. Well.
It's gonna happen right now.
Check.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yeah!
My name is Grace Lee. I am a New Yorker. I've lived here for over 2 decades. I'm a community organizer here. I am raising my family here, and I'm running for state assembly here in this district. All right. And just like many of you, over the last 2 years, I have never felt less safe in this city than I do today. Last year, while I was walking with my 9-year-old daughter, a woman came out to us and threw a bottle at us and started chasing us down the street and started screaming racial remarks at us. I was scared, and when I think about it still, I'm still shaking. Asian Americans are being targeted for the way we look. We are being attacked for simply stepping out of our homes, for daring to exist. Hatred begets hatred. It does not simply arise in a vacuum. We must demand more from our city, our state, our country, and our allies. We have to speak out. We have to demand to be heard. And we must ask our allies to be bold and to intervene when they see actions against Asian Americans. But the same goes for us. We must not be bystanders. We must be bold and stand in solidarity with all oppressed people against hate in all its forms. Together we are strong, and our love for each other and this city will prevail over those who try to harm us. But only if we do the work and stand up for ourselves and each other. Never forget, we belong here. Let's all repeat that. We belong here. Thank you.
Belong here.
All right.
Thank you, Grace Lee. I want to introduce public advocate Jamani Williams.
Show me what community looks like.
This is what community looks like.
Show me what community looks like.
This is what community looks like.
Show me what America looks like.
This is what America looks like.
Show me what America looks like.
This is what America looks like.
Peace and blessing, love and light to everyone. Everybody say Grandpa Vicha.
Grandpa Vicha.
Say Grandpa Vicha.
Grandpa Vicha.
That's what brought us together. But we've heard so many stories that just happened in the last year. And that doesn't even account for the half of it. I am proud to be here to stand with you, but I'm sad that we have to. I'm so happy I saw a sign that said Black Asian Unity somewhere there. Thank you for that. I see this brother with Black Lives Matter. I want to make sure the media sees those signs and sees that mask, because we're letting you know that the hate is not dividing us. We're letting you know that communities are going to grow stronger and stronger and get closer together, and that's how you defeat the hate. So I'm so proud to see those messages there. I was so proud 2 years ago to see so many of the leaders shouting Black Lives Matter. But I have to say something. The Asian community has been telling us for a very long time about what they've been going through.
Yes.
They've been talking about this for a very long time, and people haven't listened. They've been talking about this before the pandemic. And I know the media sometimes plays up parts of the narrative, and when these horrors happen, and I understand that people are saying we need more law enforcement, we need more this and that, and I get it. But they never play up that they've been asking for more resources for years. They've been saying their organizations haven't gotten the funding for years. They said they needed money so they can address their hate crimes. They've been saying that their stories need to be taught in school. They've been saying that we need mental health infrastructure. How come nobody else hears that part of the conversation? And so we are going to stand here together in love and light as much as possible. But we are going to say, people like me who are taking this mic, you need to hold us more accountable.
Yes. Yes.
Because we come here when the cameras are on. We come here with the mic, but after that, where's the money?
Yes.
Where's the resources?
Yes.
Where's the infrastructure?
Where's the action?
We need folks to stop playing up the divisions the divisions between us, and understand that power that we have together. And the people who heard these stories, someone's mother, someone her personal story, someone's grandfather. Think about your grandfather. Think about your mother. Think about them walking home from work and someone attacked them and killed them. The color of the hair, the color of the skin, the color of their eyes, who they love, who they worship. That's your mom. That's your grandfather. That's just all of us. You can't wait till it happens to you. You have to stand up every time it happens, and we have to do it together. And we have to have action between these press conferences. Because I'm sorry to say, I feel so bad, but I know we're going to be here again. We know we're going to be here again. Let's say we did something different in between the last time we were here.
Yes.
The next time we have to be here.
Yes.
Peace and blessings, love and light to you all. Happy Lunar New Year.
Thank you, Public Advocate Jamani Williams. And he's absolutely right. Between now and the next time we come together, we need to hold our elected officials accountable. And I'd like to introduce our newly elected New York City Comptroller, Brad Lander.
We'll get to it. Good afternoon. First of all, I just want to say that I'm really humbled to be here in solidarity and to listen to all these powerful, painful stories. It's not easy for folks to get up here and tell the stories of their own pain and their families' hurt. So let's just hear it one more time for all those folks who have had the guts to come out and make sure that what happened to their families, to their friends, and their communities are something other people see and have to be held accountable to, and we're humbled by it. We are also so tired of having to come out time and time again. It's only the first month of the year, and yet this is the third vigil for different victims of anti-Asian hate. Yesterday, I was at Michelle Go's wake, and I spoke to her father and her mother and her brother, and I know a lot of you were at her vigil in Times Square. Last week, we had a vigil for Yalpan Ma, who was attacked last year and then died at the very beginning of this year. And then here we are today for Vicha, listening to all these other stories. It's hard to live in a city with this much hate of people based just on who they are. It's hard to live in a city with so many people who don't have a place to live, with the lack of mental health care, where we can't show up for each other. So I want to speak to you just for 1 minute as a Jewish New Yorker, and say to my Asian brothers and sisters, my Asian neighbors, to Asian New Yorkers, this is your city. It belongs to you as much as it belongs to anyone else. And you know, Jews were immigrants to this city, and of course there continues to be anti-Semitism and hate crimes against Jews, but no one doubts for a minute that New York is a Jewish city. Our foods have become New York foods. Our ways of being have become New York ways of being. Jewish New Yorkers are New Yorkers. New York is a Jewish city. And of course, every one of those things is true about Asian American New Yorkers. And there's no doubt, as we're here on Fred Korematsu Day thinking about what the differences are, that it is because Jews are white and we have not found a way to lean into the idea of genuinely inclusive multiracial democracy, but it is our only path forward. That is the city we can build together. You know, Yalpan Ma, before he came to this country, was a dim sum chef. And dim sum is Chinese food, but there's no food more New York than dim sum. Dim sum is New York food. And if we could build a city that genuinely reflects the kind of inclusive multiracial democracy that is all our communities thriving and contributing and being able to stand in solidarity with each other and create and start businesses and teach our cultures in our schools, That is the New York that could come out of this pandemic stronger and more vibrant and more resilient and more equal. That is the future we want to be able to hand off to our kids. So I am here today to pledge, both as your comptroller and as a Jewish New Yorker, solidarity so we don't have to be back here again. One thing I'm going to make sure we're doing is providing the resources that are designated for our AAPI-led nonprofits to make sure they get to you on time, so you don't have to wait a year or a year and a half before you even get the money, 2 years. So that is a problem we could at least solve and make sure those resources, which we're still not providing enough of, at least get in the hands of our nonprofit and our community.
Pushed when people are shoved, when people are insulted, and when the truly terrible things that happen to so many people happen. But I also share your commitment. I share the sense of resolve that we're going to do everything we can to stop this hate. We're going to do everything we can to make sure our state government, our federal government, our city government are responding with resources in the hands of community organizations that know what to do. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Senator. All right. When grandmas get attacked, y'all forgot already?